What do you have to say? And he said, your face is just beautiful.
All right, welcome. We're going to ask the candidates to come up to their seats, and we'll get started. They've got their signs up here in case you don't know their names, but keep their seats. And we did invite all the candidates. Jamie Levitt and Michelle Randall said they could not make it tonight, so we have 4 of the 6 here. Well, welcome. My name's Haley Kaplan. I'm the president of the Washington County Republican Women. We like to hold these events. Part of our motto is be informed, so we want everyone to get to know the candidates, to be an informed voter, so we're glad you came. We're also streaming this to our YouTube page, so you can share that after with your neighbors. Just a couple announcements. So ballots will go out next Tuesday, the 14th. They'll be mailed out, so you should get them within, a few days of that. Just remember with the new law, they aren't taking postmarks afterwards, so just make sure your ballot is in one of the drop boxes or you get it mailed plenty of time. I would recommend just drop boxing it or voting in person. But by November 4th, 8 p.m., those have to be in. And then there is a couple other events coming up for these candidates, so just keep an eye on those if you'd like to visit with them more. And we're also hosting a big Charlie Kirk Memorial Healing of America event with the College Republicans, Turning Point USA, the county party. So that's going to be on the 20th. So if you have any youth in your life, high school, college, please get them there. It's going to be a great uniting patriotic event. So we'd love to have you. All right. We are going to start with a prayer by Eileen Hacker, and then a pledge by Jennifer. And then I'm going to turn the time over to our moderator tonight, Jordan Hess. And if you have questions, write them on those note cards, hold them up. We'll come gather those for you, and we'll get through as many as we can. So we'll start with Eileen.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are so grateful for these favorable circumstances that we have to meet. We're grateful for our freedom. We're grateful to live in this beautiful corner of Utah. Thankful for each other. We're thankful for the ability to speak as we like and worship as we like. We ask thee to bless us this time, that thy spirit would be with us, that the things we say and do would be pleasing unto thee. Bless us all that we can motivate our neighbors to be more active and to truly care about our nation. We're grateful for those people that put this together, and we say these things humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Would you please stand so we can have a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Jordan is out in the hall. He's coming.
Go get it.
But we'll have you guys start by introducing yourself, and then we'll get into some of the questions. Thank you for moderating, Jordan.
You're welcome. Yeah, we'll let each of you have 90 seconds to do just a quick intro.
How long?
90
minutes.
A minute and a half.
That's a long time, Jordan. People fall asleep. Start, Michelle. Oh, do you want me to start? Hello, 90 seconds. Okay.
Hello, everyone. I am Michelle Tanner. I feel like I know most of you here, but for those of you who don't know me, I am running for re-election for the St. George City Council. I have had the opportunity and privilege to serve these last 4 years. I first and foremost am a wife and mother, the youngest of which is up here with me tonight.
All right.
And that's really my why. That's why I got involved in politics and public service in the first place. As 4 years ago, working as a nurse practitioner in the ER through COVID, I realized that the country I was seeing, full of tyrannical mandates, was not the country I wanted my children to grow up in. And I'm a doer. I'm not someone who's just going to sit on the sidelines and whine about it. And so the epiphany came to me at that time, and still today, the greatest impact we will make, it's not necessarily at the federal level or the state level, it's right here. It's our own homes, it's our own backyards, it's our local communities. This is where we must fortify the spirit of liberty that we have so uniquely here in St. George City and Washington County. So the last 4 years, we can get into some of the things we worked on. I'm really proud that one of the first things I took a stand against is not raising taxes. When we were told that we had to do it, I said no from the very beginning. We voted down that tax increase, as well as fully funded our public safety plan, which had historic raises for our public safety personnel, which is the proper role of government. We did that without raising taxes. I've worked hard to cut red tape, work for small businesses, and really hone in on what makes this culture such an amazing place. And as we grow, which is inevitable, we cannot lose that spirit of liberty that we have here, which is why I am asking for your vote and running for re-election.
Yeah, I think Michelle has an outstanding record. So how many St. George voters are here that I have not met yet? Okay. Well, the ones that raise their hands don't support me anyway. But you know, we always run a clean campaign. We always go with God in our heart. And so I'm Greg Aldred. I've raised 5 daughters here. We lost Sarah 2 years ago. Her favorite scripture was Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. And that happens to be the day she passed, was 4:13. So hopefully that gives you a little goosebumps. I'm an ex-kickboxer, so I've been punched and hit. These people think they can hurt me, trying to sabotage my campaign. But you know, I firmly believe that the people who have spoke to me, they want to address the main issues of housing and water and all the things that we don't talk about, but I do. And again, I have a lovely wife who's kept me healthy and out of jail. And I appreciate that so much. And that alarm is because my sugars are kind of dropping because I don't trust the government for the reason that the fallout and those downwinders kind of used to pour radiation on us. So somehow I woke up at 49 and my pancreas had died. So through technology, I have a little Dexcom that keeps me regulated and alive because I've lost 3 siblings to diabetes, but that's more of a personal journey. I'm at the end of my candle. These are some young people. They probably could refile in a couple of years, but this is my last race for council. So I'm asking for your vote. I think you need strength in this campaign, especially with the events that have happened. There's a lot of evil around us that is doctored up through mental illness. If I need to take that bullet for this city, I would. And I'm Greg Aldred, asking for your vote. Thank you.
Get everybody untangled here. So I'm Jimmy Hughes. I'm running for mayor of St. George. I'm currently on the city council with these 2 fine ladies on the end, so and have been for quite some time. I was born and raised right here in St. George. Made my way to California to start my career, back to Salt Lake, where I met my beautiful wife, who's there in the back. Wave your hand, honey. So better to be lucky than good, was what I say. Her and I have raised our children here in St. George. We moved back about 21 years ago and have raised our children here, our 5 children, who are all still here in St. George, luckily. Who knows what will happen with the price of housing, but they're here. And we have 3 grandsons now. Super happy. That's my why. Like Greg says, we all want to run a clean campaign. I feel a little bit with one hand behind my back here tonight where it's just me and not the current mayor. But I will tell you three things really quickly, three things why I'm running and what I think we can do better. First and foremost, and we want to be clean, but we do have to be factual, right, Greg? So we got to talk about a few facts. Number one, showing up. We got to engage with the public. We got to be there for meetings with our community partners, including our federal and state partners. We've got to be there all the time, consistently. Super important. We got to engage with the public. Number two would be listening to the public. Public input, public comment is not just simply something we have to do. It's something that, it's not something just it's a formality, it's something we have to do. Listening, leadership starts with listening, not lecturing. We got to engage the public. Any avenues that I can engage the public, we need to find those. And lastly is fiscal responsibility. Michelle alluded to it a little earlier. We don't want the first thing that we do when we need money to be to raise property taxes. I'm proud to have been with these two ladies, and we were able to stop that and find out that we can do a $90 million increase to public safety, which is our responsibility, without raising property taxes. And here we are in round three. Something that people don't realize, that was the first of 3 planned property tax increases that would have increased property taxes between 45 and 65% for St. George's portion. So super important. I'm Jimmy Hughes. I'm happy to be here. I think St. George needs strong leadership. I'm ready to do it. Thank you.
I'm Natalie Larson. I am running for re-election for St. George City Council. I was serving on Planning Commission. I served there 2 years prior to being elected to City Council. While I was on Planning Commission, there was a couple of things that I didn't feel like was going on right on the city behalf. So 1 year into Planning Commission, I think maybe I'm going to run for City Council, and then I decided I would run for City Council. As Jimmy and Michelle have alluded to, that tax increase came immediately on being put into office, and I was a little off-put by that, but it was definitely on the agenda, definitely something that I've had 3 meetings with the budget team with to ask the how come and why. You can go back to a May work meeting where you can hear one of the department heads about take me out about the questions of the how come and why we needed to raise property taxes. I will tell you that we did not pass that, but our staff has worked incredibly hard since that time. I've worked with, which now is our assistant city manager, who probably a year after taking office, he became the budget manager for the city, to make that a more transparent process for all residents, that they have access to that. And if you go to our city website now, you'll see on our dashboard, you're actually able now to follow the budget more clearly on a month-to-month basis. And that part is super important to me, that communication with residents. How do we do that better? We've worked on our website. It's not perfect, but how do we communicate to our public better? And I think that is something, I will just speak for myself, that is something as a council member, hearing from you is important, and getting the message out to you is just as important. My family ranges from a 3-month-old granddaughter to a 95-year-old mom. A little tender for me today, we just buried her little brother that was 85 years old. I've lived here for nearly 60 years. It's important that we keep some of the culture and values that this city was founded on, that people feel safe here. I think we do an incredible job with public safety, but there's always more work to be done. And I've probably oversaid my time.
Thank you, candidates. Now, we did have some questions submitted beforehand. If there are additional questions, you have note cards and pens on the chairs, so feel free to submit some of those. But we've got about 45 minutes, so that will equal about 10 minutes of speaking time for each of you. Keep your answers to 60 seconds. The first question, what is the role of being a municipal leader, and what qualifications do you have that make you fit for that role? And we'll start with Mr. Aldred.
Well, public safety is the key factor. I mean, that's what we do, and that's the duty of government, to assure you for property and happiness. but also on the other role, is that's a big scope, public safety. So I think that I should just take a minute and say, since it's a woman's Republican event, my wife was the president at one time here. So I love you, honey, and I appreciate everything that you do to stand behind me. We fund the police first, our emergency services first. That's absolutely something, though, whether I'm elected or not, I would encourage this council to do a budget analysis, not an audit, but just an analysis, because we're at $523 million, over $500 million. There's 110,000 of us in our city. Again, I'm not going to criticize because I have not been in that position. Michelle has an outstanding record, by the way, I acknowledge that. Jimmy has a great heart. I think what Natalie was saying in the beginning, she voted for a property tax hike. That's all been forgiven. Whoever wins this race, you know, in the very beginning, but you know, then she retracted. That's when they wanted to use our police department to fund and raise taxes. But the city has some assets we could do. This is not about me running against either incumbent. I'm running for the seat. I probably only have 2 voters out there that could help me anyway. The others are working against me. But thank God we live here in St. George, and I love the city. Thank you. Hope that answered it. Public safety. That's what we do.
So Jordan, just to be clear, just what's our role? So mine's going to be a little different than, as mayor, will be a little different than these 3, but there's something that everybody needs to understand about the role of mayor in St. George. So I'll be giving up as a council member. I have 1 of 5 votes. In the mayor's position, you only vote if there's a tie. So you could say I'd be giving up a little bit of power, if you want to use that word. However, as a sitting council member, I've learned something, that there's a lot more that can be done when we can discuss freely and we have an atmosphere that allows for that to happen. So when we have all the information given to us, and when we have people at the top allowing us to ask the questions and get the information. Natalie alluded a little bit to that. So I just see a place where we can improve that, where the council, the mayor acts as a cheerleader for the city, and really a part-time executive. We have a full-time city manager, but the mayor's role is to assist in that and to work with the staff. So we can always create a better atmosphere where that happens. Now, what are my qualifications for that? I'm a business owner. I've started a business from scratch. I've also worked for a Fortune 500 company in right downtown Los Angeles, California. So I've seen it all. I've done it all. I'm one of you. I'm in the trenches. I'm out there fighting. I have the experience. I know what it's like to have to pay taxes, to work through the government to get building permits. I just finished a big remodel on my own business. I understand that. And that's something that's really important to me. So that's what I think. Greg's right. We do have our specific roles. Public safety should be priority number 1. I think you've seen the current council identify that and put our money where our mouth is. So thank you.
I just want to clarify something, and Jimmy and Michelle can tell me something differently. What Greg was alluding to is we take a vote to receive a tentative budget. Yes, I did vote for that. It included Save St. George and the tax increase, which leads to truth in taxation, which I think was a beautiful thing to go through, look at what we were spending our money on in an in-depth thing. So then we go through that process, we hear public hearing, all that other stuff, but I will go back to, I took a meeting over asking the how come why questions. But yes, I did vote for the tentative budget. Then we go back and pass the budget. Part of that process, we did vote against the tax increase. And then we had to go back and revisit the budget again. But we kept the Save St. George as a part of that plan. When it comes to ask me the question now.
The role and what are your qualifications?
Well, I was a planning commissioner. A lot of what we do is land use. I'm a real estate agent by nature. I spend a lot of time anyway, just because I like to drive, looking at my community and seeing what's developing out there. So land use is a big part of that. But part of that big issue is power and electricity, and that is part of public safety. If we do not have energy, we do not have water. A lot of what we get, I think maybe 27 pumps require energy to get water out of that ground. So securing that energy is critical for the city of St. George, and so is water and the infrastructure of water. And the water guys, love it when I talk about wastewater. But that is another critical part, like that's a deal killer right there. But how that becomes to reclimate that we able to use that as a secondary water supply is critical, not just to St. George, but really all of Washington County. So we have to look at things like that when we talk about public safety. Jimmy will say, I don't know when we didn't fund public safety first. Of course we do that. But then how do we carefully balance the rest of the funds we have?
All right, so the role of municipal government is, like every other level of government, we swear an oath to the Utah Constitution as well as the United States Constitution. We are the legislative, as council members, the legislative body of the city of St. George. And I am very passionate that we maintain the proper role of government at all levels of government. And that includes here at the municipal level, which is to protect life, liberty, and property, which I'm so glad that each one alluded to public safety. That's such a huge part of what we do here at the municipal level. In terms of qualifications, I feel like I have a great track record to stand on now on the last 4 years. But in addition, I am a small business owner. I know how to run a budget. I am a mother of young kids. I feel like I am truly in the trenches there with the core family unit that is so vital to our society. And I believe it is also our role to be an advocate for the citizen. I was just having a conversation with the city manager the other day, who I really enjoy, our city manager. And there was a situation that I felt like the city overstepped against a citizen. And I said, well, okay, I want to know the city side, but I can already tell you, I don't think I agree with the city stance on this. And he said, well, you are part of the city. And I said, well, yes, but I'm also a citizen and an advocate for the citizen. So that's a role I want to continue these next 4 years.
Thank you. This next question has to deal with growth. Growth is happening. How much more growth can we accommodate before we have too much traffic and not enough water? And how do you approach that balance? And we'll start with Councilman Hughes.
Thank you. Yeah, that's growth can be a blessing and a curse, is what we always say. I mean, if you think about it, when I moved away and went to California, it was because there was better economic opportunity. And in my generation, that was a lot of what we did. We left because there was better economic opportunity somewhere else. I was able to come back because there was good economic opportunity because of growth. So the key is, where can we, is there a place where we say that's enough? And I don't think anybody has the good answer to that, except for we do know that in the city of St. George, we have some defined boundaries. We have the state line, and we have some other cities, our friends in Washington, and then we get over to Santa Clara. We have some pretty defined boundaries, and we kind of have an idea of what our build out is. Now that can change a little bit based on our density. That's where it's very important in my book, to answer the second part of that question, that we've taken a lot of time to develop a master plan that allows us to say, this is what we want to look like when we grow up, so that we don't just go willy-nilly and have something that we don't want to be. And then I'm always reminded in that plan, former councilwoman Betty Ariel, if you knew Betty Ariel, she used to sit next to me in city council, and she would say, one thing you always want to remember is we don't have to be like everybody else. We're St. George, and we can do things the St. George way, and we don't have to be like Salt Lake or Provo or someplace else in California or someplace in Arizona. We can do it the St. George way. We know what we want to be when we grow up. We want to be a community that still respects our heritage, that has a community vibe, that feels like a small town, even though we know that we're going to be 350,000 plus people at full build out. That's kind of the idea. Now, if we increase density, that could be even more. That's St. George City proper. So we have to going back to that master plan. We want to stick to that. If we make changes to that, we need to bring the community in, engage the community, have public input, make sure we're doing the right thing so we can be what we want to be when we grow up. So.
Everybody who moves here says, I wish it would have quit growing the minute I shut the door. Let's shut the door and have nobody else move here. I happen to live off 3000 East. We have cattle. We moved out there to have our cattle. I'm one of the few people left in St. George City to have cattle, but that's why I moved there. And every time I vote one of those fields, one of those feedlots into a development, it's about property rights. It's not about what I want. And I think that's goes across the board. People love to see the open field, the open space, but how do we take somebody else's property rights away from them? I think St. George, we've done a good job at creating different areas for different kinds of growth. If we look at the desert color, it's quite high density. It looks a little bit different, free form is what you maybe want to call it, to allow people to grow a different kind of than the typical housing we see downtown or in other subdivisions. So I think we do a good job, and in the recent passing of the ADUs within the city limits, I think will also alleviate some of that pressure for housing. Although it's not home ownership as the American dream states it, like everybody would like to own their own little piece of property and put a home on it. So I think as we continue to look, we look at different ways to do subdivisions, a more eclectic way, maybe to go like old school, like big houses, small houses, and some apartment complex. But that has to be developer driven. We don't bring that to a developer and say you have to do this. It's their development to do. As far as water goes, part of the GEO bond that nobody wants to talk about particularly was to reclaim that water and make some ponds and put it back into some storage tanks. That is one way we divert that water. And once we divert that water, it becomes our water. Once we clean that water, we're sending it right down the river to Las Vegas or Lake Mead. So if we can reclaim that water, have adequate storage like the Graveyard Wash Project, like some different ponds or tanks in the city, that will help alleviate some of this problem that we experience during the summer months when we have peak water shortage.
How much more building and growth can we have before we run out of
The water, okay.
water and traffic issues?
So yes, growth is a love-hate relationship, right? And you really think about when we had the big boom during COVID, there's a reason people are flocking here. And again, it's our values, it's our culture. Yes, we have a beautiful climate, serene atmosphere as well. But what I'm very passionate about is that as we do inevitably have some level of growth, because we will, this is America, people are free to live and develop their property. I'm a firm believer in private property rights, but we have to maintain those values and the integrity of the community that makes it such an amazing place in the first place. And I'm actually really thrilled that a lot of the people who have flocked here these last several years, which some of you I see in this room, y'all are refugees, and I appreciate the refugees who are here because you're just as passionate as anyone about maintaining the values and culture of our community because you know what you just came from and you don't want that to happen here. So I appreciate that passion in many of you who are here today. Now, what could stifle growth? Water, obviously, that's an essential resource, something that we've been talking about since the settling of St. George to assure that we have the proper water resources. And it will be an ongoing conversation for forever, which is why it's so important that we are forward thinking and innovative with advocating for these reservoirs that should be coming online soon, the water reuse center, which St. George has really spearheaded. So I am optimistic for the future. And although, until the Water Conservancy District, I guess, gives out or stops giving out will serve letters, and that's a different story. But right now, they are guaranteeing water for these developments, and it's our responsibility to honor property rights.
Thank you, Michelle. The big D either stands for Dixie or denial. We're about out of water, and there are some plans. The marketing end right now has nothing to do with our children or our grandkids. It's all marketed for real estate and housing, 600,000 plus. It's for outside people coming in. So I have a plan. Any developer that comes here, they have a right to earn a profit, but 10% of their project needs to go back to the city. And we build a structured policy that people could apply for those 10% of homes for our service industry, because we're losing it. It's all outside money. And this could work. When we say there's nothing we can really do, they have property rights, right, they do. But any developer needs to know if you come here and you're going to build 1,000 homes, 100 of them is going to go to the service industry. You'll still profit from them. The city can waive the impact fees. We'll make it just like they used to do in a farmer's home loan out there in the rural area, because we're losing that. We need a plan there. And I do have a plan for that. And we can fine tune it a little bit. If you really want to know more about me, go to 435 Podcast. That's Robert McFarland. We do 40 minutes there. You can really get in depth here. It's kind of hard for me to express because I just feel so negative energy over here. So I'm trying to maintain without just saying goodbye. So I have that problem. Got a little laugh there. Yeah, it is kind of evil. So with that said, it's horrible what they're doing to me here. But we have a plan. And water, we can build that desalination plant out there with the sulfur in the fields. There are things we can do. But you know what? We have hurricane here, Santa Clara, Washington. They're all going to be fighting for that water when it comes push to shove. Right now, everybody's getting along, but you just wait. It's happening up north. And last but not least, I'll just pass that mic. I think I'm the last one here because I want to close with something good when we're ready. Thank you for hearing me out back there.
Thank you, candidates. This next question deals with the free speech rights of how do you manage or balance the free speech rights of individuals or organizations whose values do not align with your own?
Take it away, Natalie.
Should I tell you, I love that I get this one first. I listen to Arthur Brooks all the time. And if you don't listen to him, you should. You know, he's just a great person. But what I love is the fact that he said, just because we disagree on something does not mean we cannot be friends. Does not mean that we cannot hear each other out. We're just going to have a difference of opinion on this. And I have found most of the time, I would say 99.9% of the time, I can find goodness in anybody. I took a college class once. This is probably off topic, but Oakley Gordon was the gentleman's name who taught at SUU, and he talked about that. That like sometimes we don't understand people, but we have to get down on a human level and get to know them on a personal level and then understand them better. And it's not that we need to agree, not that we need to go their direction, but somewhere in there, we're going to find a good person that we can see for who they are. And I 100% believe with that. We have a problem in our community with some foul language. Now, I'm going to tell you that does not belong in the parks, and I'm working on that. I don't know how I'm going to start that. But I think people should be able to express themselves civilly. As a council member, I need to hear them. I need to look at all four corners of the room to see how I can apply that or not apply it. As a citizen, I feel like I have been shut down previously, and it's so important when I get those phone calls to hear those people out, to stand in front of their house, to sit in their backyard, to look at the traffic that goes in front of their house and see where we can do better or on their land use issue. I will tell you, Jimmy Hughes maybe advocated for me before I was on a planning commission as a city council member to build my own home on my own property. So it's important to have people who will listen to you as elected officials and try to hear what you're trying to communicate. It's so important. And I just want to tell Greg, like, I've known his parents forever. I used to see his dad drive around the block on his bicycle, getting his blood sugar down. I've been friends with a lot of his family members. His daughter, Sarah, was one of my young women. I used to pick her up. She wasn't in my ward. She was that absolutely beautiful young woman. And I'm sorry that you feel so hurt tonight, human to human.
Thanks, Natalie. I really appreciate this question because freedom of speech is such an essential foundation that this nation is founded upon, and something that we have to take so seriously. Something that I love so much about Charlie Kirk was his ability to have that open dialogue with people who he vastly disagrees with. But that's the beauty of America. That's how we truly grow and progress in the right way as a society by being able to have that civil dialogue, which I am a firm believer and very passionate about. Now, in regards to, government and where is that line, it sometimes is difficult in our positions. And I will say I have worked very closely with our state legislators, Cole and Jack in particular, these last 3 years to pass legislation at the state level, which has been passed, by the way, to protect our public spaces from adult performances and adult content that do not belong in front of our children. So there is a balance there of, yes, we don't have to agree with everyone's speech, but there also is parental rights, and our children have rights to not be bombarded with certain adult entertainment in those spaces. And so that's something that I'm passionate about and I'll continue to advocate for. And as far as at our public or at our city council meetings, I have always been an advocate of public comment, and having the public at really every meeting I think would be great to come and be able to express, whether it be a grievance or something we're doing great. You have the right to participate in our meetings.
Okay, I was a National Golden Gloves coach. I've coached every ethnic group in the world. They were good-hearted kids, men and women. Took the first female pro fighter to #1 in the world. They say things that were a little different than my dialogue, but we loved each other. And I love you, Natalie. There are 3 types of love. Agape love is that for God, and I love God first. Then I have my wife, which is more intimate. But I love you that you serve. I really mean that. And I knew you knew my folks. And that's kind of cool about Sarah. She was amazing. So I'm trying to get back to the question. Freedom of speech is the right. If it turns violent, you gotta act. Sometimes you gotta spank those people. I thought that'd bring a smile. So those days, I guess, are gone. If someone has an opinion, we'll share it. I mean, in today's world, the F-bomb seems to be like the word ain't. When I was a kid, you couldn't say ain't, or you go to the principal's office, they'd squat you one. So you double dipped, you got hit too. It's protected under our Constitution, freedom of speech. But when you're enticing and it comes to affect the children, Michelle was very right on about that. We got to step in, protect the kids. It's all about them. It's all about their future. Thank you. Hey, I got a clap. Now we got.
With free speech, sometimes you just got to hear some things you don't want to hear. And that comes with the job, I think, on the city level. Now, when we talk about the balance there, Natalie alluded to something a little earlier. I had to help her with that after her and I had some pretty good, people think we agree on everything. We had some pretty good arguments over some t-shirts that she was being so obstinate about before she got on the city council. And she was probably mad at me. I know she was mad at me for some land use decisions we made before she got on the council next to her property down in the fields. One thing we didn't do, which we have heard, and this was something that Charlie Kirk always talked about, we didn't let the conversation stop. We cannot let the conversation stop. People ask me all the time, how can you stand that person? And I'll admit there's probably about 5 people on my list of people that are super hard to love. You know, my mother, they taught me in primary, Jesus said, love everyone. There's a few people that are harder to love than others, but I have made it a practice to not stop the conversation and to be able to get along with people that I absolutely do not agree with, but I can have a conversation with them. I think there's some people in this room that I've had some pretty good arguments with who maybe thought we weren't friends. And we've gotten past that because we didn't let the conversation stop. I am happy to say that what Michelle alluded to earlier, we got ourselves in a little trouble with a federal judge about trying to protect children in a public space. That was all that was about, is we all felt like there was a line that you can cross and that we have a reasonable expectation that our children will not be exposed to some things in a public facility. That's all it was about. That's all it was about. I stand by that. And I think we, like Michelle said, there's been some work done on that. I will continue to stand for that. But I always say, hold my feet to the fire. Come and tell me what you think. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to end the conversation. Thank you.
We have some candidate-specific questions here. So we're going to start with Councilwoman Tanner. What specific action have you taken to reduce taxes or save taxpayer money? And Councilwoman Larson will answer the same question. What specific actions have you taken to reduce taxes or save taxpayers money? The candidate-specific question for you, Councilman Hughes, is what exactly would you do differently as a mayor? And then we'll come up with a specific question for Mr. Aldred as well.
Yeah, so this is kind of an easy one because it was something that both Natalie and I were slapped with almost day one when we got elected onto the council, with realizing that we needed significant wage increases for our public safety personnel, but where were we going to find it? And the city at that time jumped to, well, we have to raise property taxes. And from the get-go, I knew that was just simply not right, because in that same year's budget, which nothing against Parks and Recreation, it's one of the things that makes this area such an amazing place. But in that specific year's budget, that portion was increasing by 38%. Yet over in this pot, public safety, who defends our life, liberty, and property, we were saying, we have to raise your taxes in order to properly fund this. I'm about prioritizing, and that's something that I've really taken issue with on my time with the city council, is we have to prioritize the budget so these number one functions of government are simply funded first. And that's something that I feel like I've made a significant impact on. We now, the way we do our budget process is significantly different from the way it used to be. It used to be where city staff would essentially come in and the department heads would say, this is our wish list, this is what we want to do. And then the council, I mean, Jimmy's been there a lot longer, so he can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is the council would just kind of pick and choose, okay, which items do we fund? Whereas now, that process have flipped, where we, the people who should be running the government, we're a representative government, you elect us to represent you. Now we are sitting down at the table and we're directing staff on, these are our priorities, this is what we want funded, and obviously they're essential to then execute that. So I'm really pleased that we've taken significant steps in reducing the trajectory of our budget, which might be over time, but give me just 2 seconds. Going back the last 15 years in budgets, we were going up a minimum of 10 up to 38% year after year. Since Natalie and I came on the council, the first year the budget increased by 3%, the next year 1%, this year was less than 1%. That's a significant improvement.
Well, to know what Michelle just said, I think another thing that we are on the Shack Bordersville, which is the swimming pool out by Santa Clara, really in Santa Clara, I feel like. But when we sat on that board, we asked some questions about that facility, which led to questions about other uses and what the charge was for that. And some of these places had not had an increase in 10 years for usage fees for residents or outside residents. And was it the same fee that residents were paying as people who lived outside the city of St. George? Like if you're gonna rent a park in St. George and your resident is a different fee than if you live outside because you're already a taxpayer in the city of St. George. I think another thing is I am curious and inquisitive, and I ask a lot of questions of department heads. And one of the things I've really pressed on them is, like, if there's grant money, why are we not looking for more grant money? And our staff has really taken that to task, and they've even taken some courses on grant writing, how to do it. I know when I go through my emails, there's one for the PD lately that I just asked, did you, and it was something for schools and like for Red Ribbon Week. So I think we always have to be looking for other sources of money. And then just in those questions with department heads, is there a smarter or better way to do things? And they've come up with their own solutions, their own resources. We have a a tremendous staff, and our budget manager is asking those questions as well as our staff. So I think it comes from the expectation that we as a council have set. And I think our city manager and our assistant city manager have really listened to what we've prioritized as a council and made it happen.
So you want me to focus on what I'll do differently, right, Jordan? So just a couple of things really quickly. And I was there with those two ladies. Michelle's right. We do it so much better now where it's actually council driven. We had to figure that out a little bit the hard way, that really the council's in charge. There's really nothing that happens in St. George City that the council cannot overrule. The mayor has no veto power. The mayor does not vote only in case of a tie, which shouldn't happen very often, right? These ladies are doing our job. We're there when we need to vote. So the main thing that you can do is at the top, the mayor sets the agenda. So now it could be overridden again, but it takes 3 council members to do that. But it's so much better to be able to make proper decisions when you have all the information and you don't have to dig for it. Now, it's our responsibility to still dig and trust but verify. But what I'll do differently is make sure that we have an open conversation, that nobody can feel like that there's anything being trying to sneak in or anything like that. Now, this is not disparaging against the current mayor at all, but sometimes you just need to change the coach. That coach may go on to win somewhere else, and the team may be able to win or do better with another coach. That's the way I feel we're in that spot right now, where we can do better. Things can be good, but we can do better. And if we have an open conversation to where we are now, where we have the staff, where the budget's driven by a different process, where the priorities of the council are listened to first, and then the budget's developed in accordance with that, that works. So that's what I'll do differently. Thank you.
Mr. Alger, we're going to ask you that same question.
Yeah, I can hit that.
What different would you bring to the council?
I've been blessed. I'm a retired general contractor. I don't talk much about that because the last 2 homes I built were for my daughters. I think we have enough building going on. I think everybody has a right for profit. I'm not anti-growth. I just really need sustainable growth is what we need. So 4 years ago, when I rented here, I brought up Southgate Golf Course. Quick history lesson. When you've lived here over 40 years, you get to see a lot of things. Dad was a commissioner back in the 80s, 26,000 people in the whole county. So with that said, my mother was a longtime nurse. They named the senior center after her, bless her heart. She always made us serve the community. We have Southgate Golf Course. Herb Stratton owned it. Couldn't pay his water bill. City took it. We have 4 golf courses. If you want to count Sunbrook, they have 36 holes. Okay, that's plenty. Vegas has 1 municipal golf course. That's quite an asset. If there's ever a tax issue, we either privately set that aside, sell it, lease it. As Jimmy said, the council can make that ruling. We should never, ever have to raise taxes. That's quite an asset for us. And then also on property, I had a broker jump on my wagon and say, Greg, city should not be in the real estate business. I agree. We have some assets there that we can profit from. I'm a pickleball player, so understand Parks and Recs is to my heart. I'll be in the senior games for my 18th year, right, Carol? What, how many medals? Okay, that's different. So I represent you against the world. So I love the pickleball. Those are assets that make money for us, and there's a return on that. But we have assets out there in the city that would guarantee us never to have to raise taxes if we do it correctly. That's what I would bring different when elected. And my policy on the 10% give back on these developers that are not invested in our community. The council can make that happen. We'll fine tune it, but we'll make those policies work. Hurricane, you should adapt that too. Because you have people coming in here for profit, that's okay, but they're not vested in our town. They grab the money and go. They bring their own people. They bring their own subcontractors, and a lot of times they bring their own in-house salespeople, Natalie. So, you know, your realtors miss out on that too. So that's what I do a little different.
Okay, this is going to be a quicker question, and then we'll wrap up. We have a lot of people moving here who did not grow up here. I've only been here 5 years. But when I came here, I heard a lot about the Dixie spirit. There are a lot of people concerned that our community is changing and we're losing sight of the values that draws people here, the values that make this one of the greatest places in the world to live. Can you, this is going to be a challenge, we know that politicians like to talk. Can you define the Dixie spirit in just a couple of sentences? What does that mean to you? Started here last time. So.
Yeah, really quickly. And I think I've even put this on a plaque up on the,
Say it's on our plaque, so just.
yeah, up on the sugar loaf, which we have to start by making sure we remember to teach people why that's called the sugar loaf, not just the Dixie rock. That's part of the story. The Dixie spirit is simply the community spirit to me that we have here, where the community came together against all odds and they kind of cared for others as much as they cared for themselves. And they weren't afraid to go out and help their neighbor even when they didn't have a whole lot. And that's the Dixie story, and that's the Dixie spirit that we talk about. It's the community spirit. So I'll start by keeping it short like that. How's that?
I'll just go back to my dad was athletic director at Dixie Junior College back in the day. I spent my childhood in that old gymnasium and in the Dixie Stone Bowl where they played football. My brother, we got to high school, played there on Friday nights. We had Friday night lights there. And then on Saturdays, we spent a lot of time there. And my dad was a Lion, so we spent a lot of time there as well during the rodeo. So, and I was, my relatives are from Cedar. So, you know, that was like the, you know, we weren't, it was bad back then. And so, and my dad actually coached at Cedar High School. So that was before he came to Dixie. But, you know, I've always been proud of the Dixie spirit and what it brings to our community. I think we have got comfortable saying Dixie again in the last few years. That Lyman Hafen has done a great job with the Sugarloaf Trail up there and explaining how we got to Dixie and what it means to us individually. For me, it's the collaboration of a community. I said it more eloquently up there, but it's the coming together for the goodness of everybody. You know, when it comes to rivers overflowing and fires in homes when I was little, the community rebuilt those things. And when we've had the floods, we had floods and people had grand pianos that didn't lose a bolt when people took them apart. We had storage units at that time, we still do, but I mean, people opened up their storage units. You just saw the goodness, they sandbagged. And we don't want a natural disaster to have us come back together. So to me, it's like, how do we do that? And for me, it's the civic groups in this community. We need to be better at supporting them because they really do carry the Dixie spirit. The Elks, the Lions, the Exchange Club, Rotary, all those people, they serve our community. They get to know their neighbors and they get to see the need in their neighbors. And that really is what the Dixie spirit is watching out for each other.
The Dixie spirit is the grit, the patriotism, the hard work, and the spirit of liberty that this city was founded upon and this county was founded upon.
How do you top that? I mean, my Confederate money's no good anymore. I had someone say, and we're on the podcast I mentioned earlier, we talk about this, and I said, you know, that somebody said, well, what about, how are you going to protect that? We'll never lose Dixie High School. If someone has an issue, go to Pineview. That was my answer there. It shouldn't be offensive to anybody. I think I played pickleball with a couple of ladies named Dixie. So, you know, their name's on the block there. So I support them to keep it. I'm just going to reiterate on everything that everybody said here. The haters, the woke, they want to try to destroy that definition of what the spirit is. Natalie, I probably played under your dad because when we first moved up from Vegas 48 years ago, I went to Cedar. And I have buddies that still give me a hard time for living here for the last 44 years. We came down because Mom didn't like the snow up there. But Dr. Stubbs said, here's how it really worked. All the people who could read came on down to Dixie. Those who couldn't stayed in St. George. That's the Dixie spirit. Okay.
Okay, at this point, I think most everyone in the room has a good idea of who you are. So we're going to forego closing statements, and instead, you have 90 seconds to talk about your vision. Fast forward 10 years. What does St. George look like 10 years from now? And what would you like it to look like? And we'll start with you, Councilman Larson.
10 years from now, my kids and I discuss this a lot because it's changed so much since they were little kids and how they grew up. You know, I grew up with a slip and slide with the moss in the ditch. They grew up with a slip and slide, like a slip and slide, and like, what does that future look like for them with the water situation? But to me, I think I would like to see our community develop communities within the communities that you, no matter where you live, whether you live at Desert Color, Desert Canyon, whether you live out in Paradise Canyon, also known as Dixie Downs, Green Valley, or downtown St. George or Little Valley, that you have that sense of community within your community, that you know the people at your grocery stores, you know your people at the park, because that really is what builds a safe community, is when you know your neighbors. And that really is the epitome of the Dixie spirit, that you know you can count on those people when times are tough. I think as we grow, we're going to have to face these water challenges. We're going to have to change some traffic situations. But I would like us to keep some of these pillars of our history, this character that built this community. It's hard to see maybe if you just moved here, but if you just take a step back and go up to the Sugarloaf and look at those things, spend some time down in Town Square, and then envision your own neighborhood in St. George and see how you can put that to place where you're at. Whether you're at the park, visit with your neighbor. When you walk down a trail, say hello. When you're at the grocery store, start a conversation with the person in front of you. That's what builds community. That's what builds the character that I grew up with. I knew I was in trouble. All those ladies knew it. Today at my uncle's funeral, up to the Cedar was the Sugarloaf and the grill. And they knew when the morning came, if they did anything wrong at night, their dad was going to know when he met that other group of men at the morning or at 5 o'clock at night, they were going to be in trouble. Same thing with my dad at Dick's Cafe. Like when those guys got together at 7 o'clock in the morning and at 5 o'clock at night, all the police, the sheriffs, all that, they all knew what happened, or just the people out of town. Keeps our neighborhood safe when we're watching out for each other. So that's the kind of community I want to grow.
So I don't think I have to really tell this crowd, but if you haven't noticed, we are living in historic times. We are living in tumultuous times. We are living in times where the battle of good versus evil is full-fledged. This is historic. I think about this baby coming into the world right now, and I mean, it's exciting, but it's also terrifying at the same time. And I believe we have a unique opportunity here to be the light on the shining hill, to fortify this county so that regardless of what's going on and the chaos in the rest of the world and even the rest of the country, maybe even the rest of the state, that we maintain a safe haven for these children being born right now, for your grandchildren coming into the world right now, so that we can send our kids to school and not worry about them being indoctrinated with crazy leftist ideology that is completely contrary to the Judeo-Christian values that this nation was founded upon. And that's why I feel it is so essential, aside from, architecturally, what's it going to look like in 10 years? That's not as important to me as what our values are in the next 10 years. And that's what we need to maintain in this community moving forward.
Thank you, Michelle. She's a rock star, there's no doubt. Lately in these cities, we're seeing all these passenger drones being launched. My vision is I see park and ride and launching areas for the drones. I don't know if I'll ride in one. I want one with 4 batteries because, they got those ones with the eggshell, so when they crash, you bounce. But our city needs to start looking at overhead power lines, who's going to transport that way, and it will reduce traffic. I vision a monorail system from here to Zions, intertwining with Hurricane. And we take that system the same way Japanese did it. I remember my wife said, when I was a kid, I built a little magnetic pulse. You know how they resist each other? So I built this little track where you just magnet, and it just was self-powering. That's what Japan has done with their monorail systems. It all runs pollutant-free, and the speeds in it just amazing. I see that monorail system. That's what I vision. The park and ride with the overhead drones. We got to start thinking about these overhead power lines too. So that's a vision I see. But on the same note too, there is evil amongst us. And on this seat, I want you really to look deep in your heart. I have the courage, brave, and I have the strength to represent this city on whatever it needs. And we got to stomp this evil out. I'm Greg Aldred asking for your vote.
So in 10 years, I envision a community that still has the strong Dixie spirit that we just alluded to, where we still live together as a community, where we respect our traditions. There's some great traditions here in St. George that I think are foundational to that. The Dixie Roundup Rodeo. You may not be a rodeo fan, but it's a great community gathering event. The Arts Festival. You may not be, artsy, like if I can say it artsy fartsy, but that's where people gather in the community. When we talk about the marathon that we just went through, you may not, it's kind of inconvenient for some people, but that's a gathering place for not only our community, but people from all over, where we can share and indulge in the Dixie spirit. And and the Dixie Days that we now have along with the rodeo. So those are things that bring us together. Now, lastly, we got to put our money where our mouth is. I see us in 10 years as being a city that's still safe, even with some of the growth we're having. We can have no tolerance for crime. We need to have a robust police department, fire department that says, we don't allow that here, we don't give it any quarter. Last of all, in 10 years from now, I hope what we see is me 2 years into my retirement after my second term as mayor, and that we have a nice, wonderful mayor that's taken over and keeps that Dixie spirit going. I'm Jimmy Hughes, and I hope to earn your support. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. There were a couple questions that were submitted late that we ran out of time for. So if you had one of those questions, feel free to ask the candidates one-on-one. I am not a Republican woman, but I am an associate member of your club and appreciate the Washington County Republican Women hosting this event tonight so we can get to know you all a little better. And as Haley said, ballots must be in by 5 p.m. on election day, 8 p.m. on election day. But get them there at 5, or they will not be counted.
I have some extra tickets for the debate.
I need
If
one.
anybody wants one. Okay.
Mr. Aldred has some extra tickets to the debate, if anyone here would need one.
Can you tell us how many council seats we're voting on? And is one of them Mr. Hughes as if he wins mayor, how will that seat?
No, so Mr. Hughes is not up for re-election on the council. So if he were to win mayor, his seat on the council would become vacated, and that would be filled by the current city council. You will vote for 2 members of the city council and 1 for mayor. Thank you, candidates. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jordan. He's a great moderator, so we recruited our associate member. If you'd like to talk with the St. George candidates, they can kind of filter out. We're going to start our hurricane portion now as well, so we'll invite the hurricane candidates to come up. They're going to take a quick picture, and then we'll get the hurricane candidates.
So short.
Okay. You got it this way? Alexis, you got it this way?
Sure, yeah, so you can get all their time.
Okay, can you guys step forward a little bit, because you're like in a weird shadow. Okay, go ahead, do yours.
Okay, 1, 2, 3 right here.
Oh, wait,
Okay, go
Jordan,
get-
get in here.
go
Wait,
get in.
Jordan, get in here.
I'll send it.
Picture, baby.
Okay, all right, just a sec. This is not, those lights are weird right there. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Keep smiling. Everybody say, go Dixie.
Go Dixie. Carol has one more.
One more.
And I,
Smile.
You want to get in it?
Oh, you're okay. I'm not running, so I'm not getting in it. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ivy.
I'll send you. Well, you got that one.
Either way, I don't know if it might.
Thank you so much.
I'll send it. I've been.
Real quick, if anyone wants yard signs for any of the candidates, please don't forget to grab one on your way out on the back counters. Thank you.
Girl, go get her a ticket, please. She's walking out to my front.
Actually, I'll walk out.
Glad to see you up in the middle.
Work back and then I'll slide in and then. Okay, all right, got it, thank you.
Okay, you guys have yard signs?
You got it? They're holding another one in. And then, they actually told us on the last one, do not bring it in.
Oh, I think you're just gonna put your names back there.
Okay, that's okay.
All right, we're gonna get started with the hurricane candidates. So if you're St. George, we're gonna ask you to quietly. And we want to thank these candidates for coming. I know it's not close to home for you guys, but we appreciate it. We are streaming to our YouTube channel, so you can share that with hurricane voters as well that couldn't make it down. And then just as a reminder, if you didn't catch the announcements, they do have another forum. Is it Wednesday night at the Hurricane Community Center? Okay, so you can catch Wednesday night closer to home as well to hear from these guys, but we appreciate you making the trek down here. And just make a note again of that Charlie Kirk Healing of America Memorial. That's for the whole county. We would love to have all of you join us. That's October 20th, 6 p.m. at the Dixie Center. It's going to be a really great event. So, okay. Well, we're going to get started letting you guys introduce yourself for a couple minutes. Just say your name in case anyone doesn't know and why you're running. So we'll just start and go down the list here.
I am Nana Billings, and I'm the current mayor, and I'm running for re-election. I was on city council for 2 years, and then I've been the mayor the last 3.5. And it's been my honor and pleasure. A couple of things about me. I grew up in Hurricane, and my family moved to Monroe when I was 10. I went to Southbury High School and graduated from Southbury High School, and then went to school at SUU and graduated from SUU and moved right back to Hurricane, to the great place that my family all grew up and lived. I'm grateful to have a heritage of family from there, but we welcome all the people that aren't from there because we love it and know why they want to come back, and we're part of the problem. I have 13 brothers and sisters, and 9 of us live in town. So I'm just gonna say we love it there and know that that's why other people came, like Bruce. He came to Hurricane and he loves it there, just like I do. So I'm really grateful. And I'm just grateful to be able to have served this last bit for our city. And I put in my time to make sure that I've listened to the citizens and made sure that we're doing the things that they're asking us to do. And I feel like we followed that master plan that we had for development, and we're trying to make sure that we have good infrastructure. I spent a lot of time and energy going after grants and asking for help. I don't feel like that it all has to be on the residents. It's okay for us to ask for the funding to come from other places that's willing to help fund Hurricane. And that's what I've done.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Lynn Exel. I'm running for City Council in Hurricane. Just a little bit about me. I worked for Hurricane City as their police chief for 38 years. I've lived in Hurricane for just almost 39 years. I graduated Hurricane High School. After that, I went to SUU. When I came to Hurricane, one of the big things was to improve the image of our city and our police department, and mostly the police department at the time. So I took that on. I served in doing that. I served as our president of the Hurricane Valley Chamber of Commerce. I was part of the Lions Club. I went on, I served as the chairman of the Washington County Fair, which was a great experience. You never know what weather back then was going to do in August. And I went on to serve with the Utah Chiefs of Police Association, and I've also been really involved in our community in emergency preparedness. We've done a lot of great things in our community to make sure our community is ready when events happen. We have had 2 nationally declared disasters, and I've been part of those, so I know exactly what they're about. But I've served the community as a diligent leader for 38 years. I appreciate it. I retired in November. I currently work for the Hurricane Valley Fire District as our logistics specialist. And my goal for our Hurricane City and why I'm running is I just want to continue to make Hurricane a great place to live and a great place to work. I think we need to make sure we're listening to our citizens, because we have to remember, we as elected officials or appointed officials do not have a corner on the market. Our job is to work for the citizens and do what they want to do. We need to listen to their voice, and we need to make sure that we're moving in that direction. Hurricane City is going to grow. They found us, like it or not. We have a great massive area in Hurricane City that's going to continue to grow. We need to maintain our values and the really important things that come to our community that make us who we are. We have a lot of great things there. Our Peach Days that happens there is wonderful. Our little 4th of July events that happen are great. We have a lot of wonderful things that happen in our community that make us who we are. And we need to make sure as we grow, that we maintain those values. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Kevin Thomas. I'm the incumbent in the race for the City Council. I have served 2 terms non-consecutively. I was first elected in boy, that's a good one. About 2016. I served for 4 years there. And when you're on the City Council, you make a lot of tough decisions. And every decision that you make affects somebody for the good or the bad. There are a few that really don't matter, like, but a lot of them make a difference. And at the end of that first 4 years, I made a vote that made a certain subdivision unhappy, and I lost that election by 100 votes. Turned out to be a good thing because my son passed away during that 2-year time off, and I learned a lot of things from that experience. I learned a lot in my first 4 years. You can't help but learn a lot in your first 4 years, because being on the City Council is a tough job, and it doesn't matter how much experience you think you have in city governance. Being there is not the same as hearing about it or watching it happen. And so I was reelected 2 years later, and this is the end of my second term. There's a lot of things that I feel like I have done a good job on. I study the issues. I have proven myself to make tough decisions. voting in unpopular ways against family and friends if I felt that it was the right thing to do. And that's probably the hardest part of being on the city council or in a position like this, is being trusted with making tough decisions when it's not a popular one. I didn't tell you anything about my family yet. I've been married for 40 years, almost 41. I've got 6 children, 13 and a half grandchildren, and they all live in the area, so my family's part of the growth problem too. I am a home designer. That's what I do to make a living. I'm self-employed. I don't work for anybody. I don't work for any developers. I am not pro-development. I'm not anti-growth. I'm reasonable, wise growth in my thinking. And my vision for the future, I'll probably tell somewhere along the way, but I believe that we can use our wisdom and we can protect the values that we have. I'm a protectionist when it comes to protecting what we have and wanting things to be maintained in a positive way without restricting growth altogether. I think we need growth, especially wise growth with good businesses coming in, good jobs, and fun things to do. We've got a lot of that already on its way to Hurricane. So I'm Kevin Thomas. I appreciate your vote. Thanks.
Gentleman left there. Thank you, Councilman Thomas. My name is Michael Hershey, and I am a 100% longtime resident of Hurricane, Utah. I love Hurricane Valley. I am the husband to Christine Hershey, who is here watching us, and we're married 35 years. We have 8 children, 14 grandchildren, and so many things to be thankful for. Hurricane is one of those. It has been a place of refuge for us for all the years that I've been alive, and it's a place where my family calls home, and I love it. And I want it to continue that way. It is a great place. So one of the things that has spoken to my heart about running for this position, I am running for Hurricane City Council and trying to basically take my brother's seat. He is in the council now, and he is finishing his term at the end of the year. He will be going on a mission, him and his wife. And he asked me to run, and I thought about it. I think this is an important thing to do. And the things that I value in my life are, I believe, we're accountable to God. That's the number one thing. I'm grateful for God in my life, and I believe that He directs the decisions I make as I listen to Him and through prayer and meditation and that. I believe that that is the most important thing we can do as citizens of this beautiful, wonderful country that was founded by God through those that He rose up. I love my family, and I believe that we need to protect our families. And that is one of the reasons that I feel so important, that it's so important to run at this time, to continue to, as it's been said before, one of the greatest places we can have an effect upon what is happening around us is to be involved with the grassroots part of politics, and that's right here in our own hometown. I've been a part of the Republican Party for quite a few years. Trying to do what we can there to keep conservative values here, because that's why we have such a great place that people want to come, because conservative values happen because of friendly people that work hard for each other and love people and want to serve people. The last few years we have gone through, and I know it seems like it's a dead horse, but it's something that's going to confront us every day. This COVID fiasco that went on has played a big role in my family. My family and I buried a daughter 2.5 years ago. And I believe that there's a lot of the stuff that's gone on within our world that has made that happen. And I believe that we have to protect the rights and privileges and freedoms of each American, each citizen of this country. And in Hurricane is a way I can help do that. I'll have a vote to be able to vote conservative. Each one of us can make the choices we want to make, that we're accountable for, that nobody's going to force us to do anything, that we're going to be able to continue to raise our families, to develop our land, to enjoy our lives, to build an even better place. And that's why I'm running. And I love this country, and I'm Michael Hershey, and I would love your vote. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. My name's Dave Imlay. I'm running for Hurricane City Council. Born and raised here in St. George, lived in Hurricane for 33 plus years. I was a lineman in California at PG&E and moved back to Hurricane. They took a chance on me, kind of a wild, maybe a little bit crazy lineman. They hired me, and 12 years later, I had the opportunity, and they took a chance on me again to become the power director. I did not want that position, but I took it reluctantly and worked hard. I really appreciate the city for taking that chance on me. And the day before the deadline for declaring candidacy, I had no idea I was going to run. I went presented to the city council. City council allows 3 minutes if you put your name into the city council before the city council starts. It is the 50th anniversary of the Hurricane City Power. And being the power director, I knew that it was that anniversary, but because of upheaval in the power department, I didn't think that a lot of the city council knew about that. So I presented a 3-minute history of the city council. It felt good, well received. I told my wife about it. She said, you ought to consider running for city council. And I thought, it's time for me to give back. I'm retired. I do work part-time, intermittently, and I have time to give back to the city. My time as a city power director, I was able to bring that power department a long way. We had extremely high reliability, built a high reserve fund, became a model power department for the state. And I thought that maybe I could bring this experience, decision-making back to the city and help the city grow. So that's the reason I decided to go ahead and run, and I'd appreciate anybody vote for me that feels the same way. Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize. I failed to excuse Clark Fawcett, the other mayor candidate. Him and Michelle Randall tonight had the Water Conservancy meeting, so that's where he is. But we did invite all the candidates, so we're glad you guys are here. All right, we're gonna start with the topic of taxes because Ivan City recently passed a tax increase. There's been a lot of talk in the community. So how would you approach the city's budgeting process, and what are your thoughts on tax increases? Let's see, we started with Annette, so let's go.
That's a very good question. Being somebody that worked with the city for 38 years and ran a budget, I always ran a very balanced budget. That was something I really prided myself on. One of the things that I think we need to do is raising taxes is not a comfortable thing to do to any household. And I think that's the worst place we can do it. I think one of the things that Hurricane can do right now, we've got one of the most fantastic business corridors of any community I know of anywhere. The whole SR9 that comes through our town that has 5 million visitors that come through every year. I think that's an area that we can work with a lot of our different businesses that would like to come in and get them in there to where they're paying the sales tax that can help us run our city. That's one of the things where we can try to do everything in our power to avoid doing anything for residences, because people are strapped now. We can't keep going back to that well that's literally drying up. So that's not it. The other thing that I think is very important that we can do is look at our budgets, look at priorities, listen to our citizens. What do they want? What are their priorities when it comes to our community? What is it that's important? And when the people speak, I think we have a duty and obligation as an elected official to go ahead and carry that forward and have the will of the people be what we as leaders do for our community. And I think that needs to be done. I think that there can be some great things done in our community, but raising taxes is not one of them.
Boy, this would be nice to be wireless. So I've been part of the process of creating and holding our city to budgets for 8 of the last 10 years. And I think in that 8 of the 10 years, I'm not aware of any tax increases that our city has done. We haven't put out for a vote on any. And I'm proud of that history. We are currently working on building a community center, and we could say, hey, we need a bunch of money, so we're going to go out and bond for that. And we're doing everything that we can to not bond for that. We're using strategies that can be effective in avoiding taxes. I am not in favor of any kind of taxes. Property taxes is not something that I'm fond of, and neither is any other kind of taxes. And I just feel like I have a history that shows that's the way I have governed and made my votes on the city council. So, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, this is a big subject, taxes, and I definitely is one of the things that I'm against, raising taxes. I will do whatever I can as a councilman to continue to live within the budget that we have. I believe as a citizen, we pay a fair amount of taxes, and I think more than we probably ought to. And so I think that that's something that it comes to council meetings, I will do my part to educate myself on the things that I can and research, and also look for other ideas from other people that are more intelligent and have more wisdom to direct those budgeting ways that we can live within the means that we have. I've thought about this a lot, and I'm not running to make money myself. I'm running to serve this community, and I am willing to give whatever monies I have. I've thought about this in this regard, that I know I've heard of widows or people that are really stressed with the means they have, or unlimited fixed incomes, that I'm willing to, and I don't know how we're going to go about these logistics, but I'll donate the salary that I make and divvy it out to others that need to pay their property taxes. That's one of the ways that I feel that we need to serve. These positions are very important, and we have to protect these things, and we have to be willing to stand up for them, to protect the citizens. That's who I'll represent. If I'm voted in, I will represent you, and I will do what I can to listen and to help to solve the problems that we have. And I just do my best. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. So Hurricane has a huge land mass, a lot of area to cover with infrastructure, a lot of cost out there. I think the city's done a great job keeping up on that infrastructure without having to raise taxes. I too am not for raising taxes. It seems to me like the growth itself should bring enough revenue in to cover everything that needs to be done, or everything that needs to be done. Maybe not everything wants to be done, but everything that needs to be done. And as the city fills in, that tax base will grow, and we should be able to grow enough to be able to cover all our needs. I have a history of making sure things are fair. As a power director, when solar companies wanted to come in and put solar in, people wanted a net meter, which basically means that the city will pay wholesale or retail retail for the power that these people generate back onto the system. Well, there's a lot that goes into that power, getting it to the customer. So basically, we're selling it at a loss to the city, which actually pushes costs back onto the city ratepayers. I was the first one in the city to get us away, to recommend the city council that we go away from the net metering and we go to more of a wholesale purchase. So we pay the people who have solar on their house, we pay a wholesale cost instead of a full retail cost, which basically does not shift those costs onto the other ratepayers. So I think there should be fairness in taxes. I don't think we should need to raise taxes. I really like Lynn's idea of we incentivize businesses to come in to our city so that we get that tax base. One thing I'm totally against is waiving impact fees. Impact fees are a study. There are actual costs that cost to put the infrastructure in. If we waive those impact fees, that's pushing those costs onto the other residents of the city. I think that the development should pay for itself. We need to make sure those impact fees are as high as they need to be to make sure all the infrastructure can get in, so that those costs aren't put onto the citizens too. So in the end, summary, I think that the tax rates are okay now. They could be probably a little bit lower, and we should be able to grow ourselves out of just needing to do the needs, but also get some of those wants in there.
Thank you so much for helping. So every family, every business, and the government should live within a budget. And in Hurricane City, we have. It is not fair to ask someone to increase their budget to pay more because you need more. They don't get to just say, oh, we want more money, a single person or a veteran or anyone, unless they go and get another job or make more money in another way. So it's not really fair to do that. And so I'll just tell you, we've had this come up because I was on the fire district board and they wanted an 89% tax increase. And I was against the 89% tax increase. In fact, we didn't have the 89% tax increase while I was on that board. We put another person on the board who's running for mayor. And I'm just gonna tell you, it was passed with the county commission for 52%. And today the legislature approved a sales tax. And like you're talking about, the businesses, both of the council members we're talking about, the businesses bringing in that doesn't exclude you. If another business, if you go to that business, you have to pay for that. So it's great that you can say, well, tourists are going to help pay for that tax, but you still have to pay tax if you go buy carpet and a car and all of the things that we're talking about. So if you are changing the use of who's going to be paying which tax, I'm just saying, live within our budget. That's what we needed to do, and that's how we need to focus on taking care of our needs. It's not raising taxes or changing where you get it. Now, they did say, well, if we pass the sales tax, they're going to take away property tax, the 52%. We'll see. I've never seen government do it, so I just don't believe in doing it because it never goes away.
Perfect. And by the way, if you guys have questions, write it on a note card, wave it, and Kristen will pick it up for me, so we'll get your questions in too. We just have some that were submitted as well. So with Hurricane being tourist, as you mentioned, center, there was a question submitted about nightly rentals. How do you, what are your thoughts? How would you balance as a council or mayor property rights and also, the neighbors surrounding there with those nightly rentals? Let's see, I think we're on Kevin.
So when I was first elected, I was at the forefront of the vacation rental issue. 2016 was about the beginning of the Airbnbs in our area. We'd had a little bit of pressure from people coming in and saying, hey, I've got a room in my home and there's this app and I'd like to rent it out. And that was something that was brand new, red hot when I was elected. And Hurricane at that time was not a destination, it was a pass-through village. People came and they drove right through and they didn't stop and stay and they didn't spend any money in Hurricane. We had a few hotels, but not near enough for people to stay in. And frankly, people needed a place to stay and we needed to be able to provide a place for that. and to be able to collect some revenue from all those cars coming and going. And so one of the first things that I did on the council was I helped to draft the first ordinances that that are called residential hosting. And residential hosting has been a very positive thing in our community. We also, at that time, approved an ordinance that allowed whole home vacation rentals. After a few years of going on, we decided that wasn't such a good thing. That was a problem. And so we scaled that back and changed the ordinance and eliminated the opportunity for people to do whole home vacation rentals. During my 2 years that I was not on the council, they approved a whole bunch of residential resort. I think they created a new zone called residential resort, which the theory was that you take everybody from the community that wants to, or that you take the opportunity for investors that want to create vacation rentals, and you put them all in a single subdivision, in a single zone, and then all the vacationers can go to that one zone to get their vacation rental. And during that 2-year period, thousands of those were approved. And I think we're overbuilt as far as vacation rentals go. And I wish we didn't have to allow them to build them, but they are already approved and they will likely be built. I think they'll be a detriment to the city overall if they continue to be built. But the residential hosting, on the other hand, I think has been a very good thing, and it allows individual families in the city to benefit and profit instead of the investors. So that's my thoughts on it. Thank you. Let's see. I'm gonna do a do-si-do.
Thank you. There is a lot about this, and at the last council meeting, I was listening to some of the things that were being talked about, some of these residential rentals and that, and they're talking more about limiting and things like this. And I just got done talking with Councilwoman Tanner from St. George, Michelle Tanner, and about some of the things that are happening in St. George with ADUs or residential units people are building, and they're lessening up the some of that, because that is one of the answers we have, I think, to affordable housing. I mean, and that's going to be done by the people. I don't think it's the government's job to do it. I think it's the people's job, and that also supports people's rights in their properties. I don't think we need to put a limit on what size of property. If you can come up with something that fits and it makes sense, and the council members will decide that on that. And I will be as honest a judge as I can at looking at that. But I think that that's one of the places that, as I look at us making a living in this community where we are at, there's ways we can do that, and this is one of those ways. We let outside investors come in and build hotels and motels and whatever that with, and that's money that's coming into our community and then going out. If we allow our citizens to do this more, as they would like, it also allows, for them to be able to house some of their family possibly, or to make some money and have our money stay here, and to be able to grow our city in a way that we'd like. I think it's important that we value and honor people's property rights. That's something that's talked about a lot, but I think it's something, when it comes to the council, we have to look at that. There are high dwelling, high density housing things that I think is we really have to look at that as well, and decide what is going to be the best for the community and those people around it. I've seen some of the discussions lately, and it's been impressive to see the discussions that have gone on to try to help people solve problems and to make stuff to where it can work for people. And I'll do what I can to listen and to help people to better their lives and enjoy the freedoms we have as Americans.
Thanks, Mike. I've come down on this subject on both sides of the issue at times. And right now, I just feel like if you're in a neighborhood you don't really want a commercial venture next door to you. I know it infringes upon one resident's right because they can't have a hosting, but if you do allow the hosting, then it infringes upon the neighbor's rights of having a stable neighborhood. So I think the people are living there. I think when you move into a neighborhood, it's not a commercial operation. I think it should stay a neighborhood and not a commercial operation.
Thank you. This is something that when I became a councilwoman, that this was one of the very first issues that came up. And it had been established a few years before I was on the council, and it was open. And during the time that I was first on the council, they approved everything as recreation resort after that. So they had single family homes that were in neighborhoods like you're talking about, Dave, where the home really was a residential home, but it's considered a hotel because they were staying out all night swimming or whatever. And so that was the problem. Since then, that ordinance has changed. So unless you're in a recreational resort, you can't get a license for a new one. So you have to be in a recreation resort to have a single home. Now for hosting, the ADUs, as like that have been talked about, you can have an ADU, and those are new licenses, and that's available. You can have long-term or short-term in an ADU, and that license allows you to be there. So you're not going to have people out screaming. In fact, there's never been issues with the police called saying we have a problem, because the homeowner's on property and they're taking care of every issue. So what really happened is the 76 single-family homes that were in residential neighborhoods were the issues. But since then, we've stopped those and the list, and so there's not any more of those being issued. And the ones that have been issued will dwindle as they were sold and people aren't continuing using them. But you can't change the use. Once you're entitled to something, you can't change that. So it's very important who you vote on your council, because when they vote for something, once it's entitled, it's entitled. Something else, our recreational resort, 5,300 units have been approved through our city. They're not all built right now. We have a few, there's not even 1,000 of those units built right now. But that's a lot. So our council stopped the recreational resort and said, we're not even gonna have a zone for that. We do not need any more recreational resorts right now. And the market dictates that, right? You can see that that's what it's supposed to be. This is supposed to be a residential area, and the council had opened it up. So since then, we just said, let the recreational resort units that are there, they can build them out. Let's see if it comes back or we need more, then it can come back in 20 years. But right now, that's not even an option. So I think we solved some of the problems with our city and the issues.
Thank you, Mayor. Something I noticed when I was in law enforcement is when they allowed them to go into residential neighborhoods, we have a lot of problems with them. Because we all know, somebody comes to our area to recreate, they come in, they go into a residential neighborhood, they swim all night, they have ATVs, they park everywhere. It just turned into nothing but problems. And nobody was on site. I think what the city's done right now has been a very good thing. I think by eliminating them out of residential neighborhoods, because you know what, as Dave Emily said, running for council over there, you know, if I'm in a neighborhood, I want that to be a neighborhood. It should not be a commercial venture right there. And so I think, and I don't necessarily agree totally with the numbers that have been approved for the recreational resorts, but I think that's a good option right now of where they need to be rather than inside neighborhoods. Now, one thing I've noticed that's happened in Hurricane City, which is I think a good thing, is since they have kind of curbed that, made that happen, we've got another hotel coming to town. That hotel is going to bring in revenue. It's going to do the things that it needs to do and provide a service for citizens or tourists coming through our town to give them a place to stay. And I think those are good things. The ADUs that have come up, I think are an absolute option. To come in and say, you know, things dealing with attainable housing, that's kind of a hard thing because again, a developer comes in, they build something, they're building a development. Even if you take a percentage of that and say it's for attainable housing, the problem with that is a person builds it or buys it, 5 years from now, they sell it, they make a profit on it, now it's no longer attainable. So those are kind of concerns. But the ADUs give another option, and the nice thing is the property owner is right there on site, and they're going to be able to maintain it, make sure that we have peace and tranquility in the neighborhoods, and we're protecting people's rights that live around them. So I think the council has done a wonderful job at trying to fix some of that to this point.
We got everyone on that one, right? Start with Ken. Okay. All right, we've got about 15 minutes left, so let's try and keep our answers short, and we'll get through a couple more. How about that? All right, we're switching gears to public safety. So if you've been on the council or in the city government, kind of talk about where the city and police wages came from, and where you'd like to see, public safety going in the future. If you're a new candidate, kind of talk about your plan going forward, what you'd like to see with public safety.
Public safety is a paramount thing that we need to protect in our communities, and I thoroughly I'm very grateful for the work that we have done in our city at this time. We are doing as far as I understand with the communication I've had with our chief and a few officers that they do a great job. They are happy. I spoke to one of them today about his wages, and he was like, "It's just been incredible what has happened in the last few years with Mayor Billings being our mayor and the council that we have right now. They have taken care of our police." And that is something that I think is important, because I think they need to, I've always thought police, teachers, fire, these are the kind of people that need to be taken care of and paid. We could somehow figure out a system to sports figures that don't do anything for us really. We can figure out how to way to channel that money better to those three occupations, that'd be better. So I shouldn't say they don't do us any good. Shpeen, I don't want to throw anything on you, but they can motivate us in good ways too. But I believe my thought with our police and our protection and that of the city, and our fire and rescue, and that is I think a different subject, because that's emergencies and things that happen, and it also can deal with this situation. I don't think Hurricane City needs to hire and more police, and I'm not saying we need to let any go, but I think we need to. This falls on each one of us as citizens. Each one of us need to be better. We need to be accountable to God. We need to take our families to church on Sunday. And I went on a mission to the South, and I used to think I didn't like to see another church in our community. But I have learned that there are all different kinds of Christians in our area, in this world, that are absolutely great people. And I love to see a church with a parking lot full on Sundays, because that makes for a better community. And if we can do more of that, and each one of us work on ourselves individually and our families, and build stronger families, and be accountable to God through prayer and obedience to laws and things like that, and know that God's watching us, not just the police, then we're going to have a better community, and we're going to be able to have a great staff and be able to pay them a great wage, because we don't have to have a ton of them. And I think that's the answer to that. It relies on the people, each one of us, not the city. I can't change that, but each one of us can change that. I can change it in my own home, and not anyone else's. Thank you.
A whole bunch of twists in the mic here. I was talking with a gentleman who knows a little information. He said that at times they're 16 calls deep. They just have to take the priority calls first and eventually get to the calls. So, I don't know about the staffing levels of the police department. I do know that we have a lot of attrition, talking with some of the police. And when we lose officers or any city employees, we lose a lot of institutional knowledge. And that institutional knowledge costs a lot to get back. And we need to make sure that we're competitive. I don't know how much that is to be competitive, but we need to be competitive with the surrounding cities. But with all city employees, we need to make this a great place to work. The atmosphere is very important. You can work for a lot less money if you're appreciated, if you feel part of the community. That starts from the city, the top of the city, but also comes from the bottom up. To work as a family. I know that's how it was for a lot of years. People love to work for Hurricane, and people would try to get to Hurricane. I know as a power director, I had guys coming to me all the time wanting to know when there's a job can open in Hurricane so they can come to work for Hurricane. Right now, we are losing people. We need to figure out why. If it's just wages, or if there's something internally that's making these people leave. So the public safety, the fire district, of course, is through the taxes. But those police officers, the first thing you do when you have a problem, you call the police. Those people are dealing with the problems. They deal with the crap out in the city. We need to make sure they're well taken care of and well appreciated, because we lean on those guys really hard for our safety.
100% to take care of our police. So the last 3.5 years that I've been the mayor, we have raised wages for our police 9 times. Our city employees, normal city employees, have had 3 increases. Why have we done that? We've needed to compete. The wages were so low, we were not able to maintain. So when you're talking about attrition, that matters. We're hiring people, and then they're being trained, and they're great officers. And actually, you have to say something that has been told to me many times in Hurricane City. We hire good people, and we can train them to be a good officer. And that is absolutely true. I recognize we had good people that were working for us, and another agency, another city, the county would hire them away. And it's because our wages were so low. So right now we are very competitive, and we are not losing people. That matters. And then they feel value, and they want to stay and work with you too. So we needed to increase wages. An officer one, when I first started, they were making about $22 a month, or excuse me, $22 an hour, and now they're at 28. So you could say, well, that's not a lot of money. That's at the very beginning, like field training is coming in after. But they were at 41, and now they're at 57. An officer 3 that had been there for at least 17, I'm gonna say between 12 and 17 years, they were at 57, they're at 93. That's huge. That's a difference. That's game changing for an officer. And then they're not being hired away by another agency. We needed to compete, and we needed to keep people that are good people that can train new officers. And so I have to say I'm really grateful for our police, and I have put a lot of emphasis in supporting our officers in Hurricane City.
Thank you. As you know, my background has been in public safety, and it still is. I am a 100% supporter of public safety. Working in law enforcement I worked actually in Laverton before I came to Hurricane, and I've worked in law enforcement for over 40 years. I support public safety lock, stock, and barrel. I really appreciate everything that Mayor Billings talked about and things that have been done to improve what's going on as far as wages and different aspects with the police department. I think we have some amazing police officers that work for us. And I agree. I think we need to do everything in our power that we make sure we don't have the attrition rate that we've had going on in the past, because it's very expensive. We used to figure, I don't know what it is exactly right now, but we used to figure it was somewhere around $200,000 to $300,000 to lose an employee that had 3 years experience with us to try to recoup that training back to the same level. So when you look at that, you want to keep those people. But as Dave Emily said, we've got a lot of people in the city that have a lot of institutional knowledge. We've got to make sure we are doing everything we can to maintain those employees and keep them there. I will make one comment regarding the fire district, and I'm just going to say this. I work under the administrative team there. I'm not an administrator in that department. I have seen the plan that if this sales tax passes, exactly what they're going to do and they are going to return property tax to the citizens of Hurricane. It will happen. I've seen it, and I have no doubt in my mind it will happen. So I think that our government entities, our government leaders are doing what they should do. But public safety is not just police. It's police, fire, EMS, even your streets. How are our streets? How's the public safety there? Are we doing things to protect our people driving on our roads? I think we have a duty and obligation there too. I believe our police department is very well run and very well managed. I think they do an absolutely fantastic job and support them 150%. And I think we need to continue as a city supporting public safety as we move forward.
I am so grateful for our police officers, for our fire department, EMS. Our lives depend on it. Our lives depend on them. I have been part of every wage increase that I've had an opportunity to vote on. I support our police officers and fire department 100%. I have a son-in-law that works for the police department in Apple Valley. I'm grateful that we live in a place that supports our police officers and that we don't have stuff going on where we're defying and saying and trashing the police department, not letting them do their job, and we've got officers that want to do their job. We live in a great place, and I support all of them 100%. I do think we're in a good place now to keep our officers. We've got a good wage increase recently on the fire department. I support our fire department 100% as well. I'll withhold judgment on the tax and see how this goes with the new sales tax of 1%. And I hope that they will be good with their budgets and open and honest in their full budgeting. But I value every single fire department firefighter. They are 100% needed, and I support them 100%. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, we are towards the end, so I think we've got time for one more. So just as part of your closing remarks, if you'll just touch on, we touched on it with the St. George candidates as well. I think Hurricane is in the same situation. How do you balance keeping the small town values that so many have been raised with, but also embracing the new citizens moving in? So what's your vision for the next 10 years of Hurricane?
My vision for the next 10 years is first off to have a grade separated SR9 so that we can get traffic in and out of Hurricane and through Hurricane. I really like to see that done in the next 10 years. I don't know, as a city councilman, I'd be able to have a lot of influence there, but that would be a vision I'd like to see. Also, I'd like to see a transmission corridor down the I-15 corridor that ties into the Purgatory substation that is in Purgatory. Right now, we're at a radial tap, meaning that all the energy coming into the county comes from the central substation that is up by Pine Valley, or up by Central. It comes down into Washington County. If something goes wrong in that corridor, we're all out of power. So those are two things I'd like to see infrastructure-wise. As far as keeping the Hurricane, the traditions, we have what I call Hurricane proper, the valley. We can keep that valley semi-rural. I know there's people who raise hay, who are raising cattle, who supply beef for residents. I actually have a little 20 tree orchard in my backyard. I actually produce a few peaches and other fruit that I distribute to my neighbors and friends. Keeping that culture going, I think, is important. We can continue to build and expand and let the new people come in and enjoy that during peach days and keep that heritage going. A couple of things I failed to mention earlier is that with public safety and with Lynn as a supervisor there at the department, at the police chief, he had each one of us, department heads and our seconds, all trained in the National Incident Management System, something that was put in after Katrina so that our communities could know how to deal with a disaster. My hat's off to Lynn because he had us all trained, and if we had a disaster, we knew what to do. So our city still has some of that institutional knowledge, And I just wanted something I was going to mention earlier. I love our city. I think I can bring a lot to this to the city council with institutional knowledge, and I appreciate you both. Thank you.
Small town charm. That's definitely something that I want to see in Hurricane. Part of that comes back to loving your neighbor, being kind, being forgiving, showing some kind of gratitude to God and to other people, recognizing people in our community and not being offended and showing grace. And a lot of that just comes back to who you are as citizens, who I am, and leadership matters. And I've tried to love my neighbor and help other people. And so I hope that that comes back into our community and that we can show that same kind of love into our community. I am really, really grateful for the opportunity I had to be on the council during COVID, allowing people to have their rights and not take away their rights. There were many businesses that I went to during that 2020 and 2021 when they said, what do I do? How can I keep my business going? There were no businesses that shut down in Hurricane. No businesses. And do you know why? Because they understood that the city has the right through the state, and the state gives the city, the municipalities, the right to run businesses. And so they didn't shut down because they understood their right. If someone felt like they were uncomfortable or didn't want to do something, that's their right. And it's supposed to be that way. It should never be government dictating to every single person what they should be doing. So I just have to say, I have taken a total different approach on COVID than other people, but that's okay because it's my right not to wear a mask. It's my right to carry a gun and not get a felony for wearing a mask. It's my right to stand up for businesses because your business matters and your business matters and your business matters and yours, because it dictates whether or not your family can thrive. And we should never adjust based on what we think is important or essential. Every person's essential. And I don't pick and choose winners and losers. I help everyone. Everyone's important, everyone's essential, and that's how you maintain a small town charm, is everyone has a vote, everyone gets to stand up, everyone gets to run a business, and everyone gets to go outside and take care of their own family and make their own choices and let the government not run their life. That's how you maintain a small town charm.
Hurricane's going to grow. We all know that. And I think we have a duty and obligation as every one of us, and I have elected to a city council position, who work very diligently to maintain our small town values. Our values can stay there. Our ethics, our morals can stay. But what's going to happen is we are going to grow. So we need to reach out to our neighbors. We need to reach out to our friends. We need to go to the city park, when we go to the grocery store, when we go to the other different businesses. Talk to people, say hi, wave when you drive down the street. Let people know you care about them. If you've got a neighbor that needs something, go help them. If you see someone in need, help them out. Those are the ways that we keep our small town values. We got to make sure that we're looking out for others, and we can do that. We have one of the best communities that could ever be. We have the greatest values there that we could ever get anywhere else. And I think as leaders of our community, we need to be very transparent in what we do. We need to be very open. We need to listen. One of the things I did when I was as police chief is we would have meetings in neighborhoods. We would go out, we'd meet in city parks, we'd allow people to come, and there was no agenda. You could just come, anything you wanted to say, you could come and bring it. If you had a concern or a problem, if you had something that was positive, whatever the case may be, you do that. You look at community programs, things that benefit our community. We improve those, we keep those going. We make sure they can move forward. One of the greatest things that we did while I was in there was our Shop with a Cop program. That was completely funded off donations. It was never funded off taxpayers' dollars. And we actually expanded our program to where we did a back to school and a Christmas one. And those were great things. We got to interact with a lot of wonderful families, a lot of great kids. We got to make their life a little bit better. And that's what I think we need to do as citizens of Hurricane, make everybody's life a little bit better. Thank you.
Boy, I agree with a lot of what was said. We have a lot of people coming to Hurricane from California and other states where the people are fleeing the liberal politics and seeking a life more conservative. And they come to us because they believe that we espouse those values. Sometimes they don't vote that way and they do things that make us shake our head and scratch ourselves and go, well, I'm not sure what they're thinking, but we need to welcome them into our communities and help them to understand what makes us great and why they wanted to move here in the first place, and help them to become one of us. That's one of the things that we can do better, is putting our arms around our neighbors and being kind, as they have alluded to as well. One of my visions I see myself as a protector. Again, with COVID things, I was very in favor of allowing our businesses to do their jobs and stay open and to not require masks and not require the people to stay in their homes. I'm a protector of people's rights and values, Second Amendment as well. Freedom of speech. SR 9, I don't want to see SR 9 be a divided highway through the middle of town. I know that's one of the things that UDOT is considering. I don't want to see that happen. I do want to see some improvements out on SR 9 out by Walmart, and that's going to happen. We're going to have some flyovers and some frontage roads that are going to help alleviate traffic there. And I see 600 North becoming a bypass that will help alleviate some of the traffic. But I don't want to see a bunch of buildings torn down on State Street. I want to see our downtown developed into something beautiful, something functional, a place where people gather, where they want to be together. Those are my visions for the future. Thank you.
Well, we have a wonderful community, and thank you for all these great things that we look forward to in the next 10 years or so. Hurricane is a great place, and in that 10 years, I see that we're going to grow a lot, and I just hope and pray that we can help to make that growth something that's even greater. Right here in our audience, I've recently met Bruce. He's a move-in from Illinois. Let me just say this little story with Bruce. Like Charlie Kirk, that just was assassinated, I never met Charlie, and I know Shaveen has. But when that happened, I felt like one of my brothers in God was taken. And I felt a lot of heartache, a lot of trouble in this world. And that's not far from where we're at. I was sickened that this happened in Utah, of all places. And I want us to be able to reach higher and be better. Bruce is one of these guys that came here for good reasons, and he's a great man. And he is one of these guys that I can go up and give a hug and tell you, I love you, brother. And Shaveen, I felt the same with him. I was talking to him and getting to know Shaveen some. And as he run against us here, he's helped us. He's given us good ideas and given us a passion for what we have here, because he came here because he loved it, and he wants to build something. I want to raise my kids here. I want my family to continue to grow here, and I have a large family. We are part of the problem, as it's been stated, but that problem is a good problem, because I'd love to see my house full of my family, and I love to see that on a Sunday afternoon we come to eat dinner. That's the kind of stuff we can sit around the table. I want every home in our community to be able to be like that families get together and that we grow toward God. That is the key, I think, and that is one of the things that I've seen as through this Charlie Kirk situation, is that there was a lot of the stuff that he was saying was suppressed, because it's not what the media wanted us to hear. They wanted us to see him fighting with college students. They didn't want us to see him loving these people and helping them to see that Jesus Christ is our Savior and he is the only way. And if we will, each one of us, gravitate to him, we will grow a greater community. and we will have compassion, we will have love, and we will serve each other. We will know our neighbors. We will be able to be of service and be able to be that light on the hill that we should be as Hurricane. Hurricane has some great places. The Heritage Park, that's some place that people need to come and go to and look at and learn about what makes this valley so great, because these people that dedicate their lives to build this canal to bring water, which we haven't talked about here tonight. Water is, because I think water comes when we are obedient to God and accountable to Him. He takes care of us. We will prosper if we live right. But if we don't, the water shortages will continue to come. The droughts will come. God will bless us, if is the way I feel, and I know that. I've seen it through my life. I love this place. I want to serve Hurricane, and I'm grateful, and I'm looking for your vote. My name is Mike Hershey. Thank you.
Thank you. I grew up on the west side of St. George, but I always tell people, if I move again, I'm going to move to Hurricane because I love it out there. You guys are great. I don't know if my husband will let me move, but I just want to say thank you. You guys made the trek down. All of you that are here, I know we're small in numbers, but please share the YouTube link with your community groups. Get the word out about these great candidates so you can turn in your ballots that are coming out in a couple weeks. So, and I did mention the Charlie Kirk event. So yes, we'll make sure you guys come on October 20th. Thank you so much again. We appreciate you, and we'll adjourn this meeting.
Thank you for coming.
Congratulations, guys. Through it.
Can I hold on to the
It's actually better if you step up.
Okay.
Get rid of that light right there. Okay,
I want the leg not moving very far.
Okay, smile.
I have this little thing.
Okay, Haley, jump in.
I
I want to get the, that's good, because I get the flag too. Ready? That wasn't light. It's bad.
I know.
Hey.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we and I don't want to put away all the chairs ourselves. And we're not gonna ask them yet.
That's
I asked if they would help.
Where do you want these tables at?
Yeah.
Those tables came out of that room, I do believe. Haley, the tables came out of there, right?
Just give it to me, I'll sort it through.
You're good. I went to walk around at night.
It's interesting, but they would write.
They just stack up against this wall. Yeah. Thank you so much. Sorry, put you to work.
You're all right. That's what we're here for. We're down a few times. Make that so heavy you can't move it there.
It's 5 to 6 for the
Okay, where do you want all your?
Yeah.